hello. Good afternoon. My name is Crystal Almeida, and I am the CEO and founder of HerLink, a community for female entrepreneurs, but not just a community, a place where you can come and get the tools and all-in-one business management system, training, support, and face-to-face support to manage and master the back end of your business as a female entrepreneur. And with me today, I have the beautiful... Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Kay Tapp. Full name is Dr. Catherine Tapper. I am the founder and CEO of Glow Coaching, where we help women to glow in their wellness from within so that they can experience calm, connection, and confidence to really flourish in life and be successful in business because they have taken care of themselves. And we do that in a holistic way. So glad to be here to talk with Crystal. It's always a pleasure, as you already know.
Dr. Catherine and I jumped on these lives. We committed to doing a live together and just having conversations around business, female entrepreneurship, wellness, and just a really holistic approach to managing not just your business, but managing life and living on purpose, in purpose, and just really feeling that alignment and imbalance in your life. Disclaimer, I am not your expert, but what I am is a female entrepreneur myself who has been through the trenches. I am a mom. I am the lioness in my household, like many of you, taking on so many different hats, roles, and responsibilities that we oftentimes need to rely on each other as women and support each other and have these types of conversations to continue to use that muscle in our brain to implement new tools, new tips. So reading is one of them to make sure you're always staying ahead of your professional development game. And today, Dr. Catherine and I, we have been reading a book together. And I want to take a moment to pause and encourage all of you, if you're into reading, if you're into self-development and you're picking up some books, I want to encourage you this next month, find a friend, find a buddy, and find a book that you can pick up together. And I encourage you to do this because, we talk about accountability all the time, but this is above and beyond accountability. This is an opportunity to read a book, learn new tools, get them to put them into practice and have an in-depth conversation about what you're learning so you can implement it into your life and not do it alone. Because one thing is for sure, I've learned in entrepreneurship and in motherhood and in life, why do it alone when we can do it together? Because we are definitely stronger together. So
Absolutely.
Dr. Catherine and I, right? It's true, right, Dr.
Exactly.
Catherine?
And let me say something to that point, Crystal, because it's so important for me, and I know for you too, that community is so important, right? Again, we can't do this alone. And as you've recommended, finding someone that you can read a book with that speaks to, that elevates your intellectual wellness. So that's a part of you growing into the elevated person that you want to be, right? We're all here to grow and to learn more about who we are. And one of those things is reading, right? We don't know everything. We need to expand our minds, expand our hearts, and then come together and elevate each other. So I just wanted to say that before we get started.
I love that. And Dr. Catherine, you pop in, interrupt me anytime. I love speaking. I love coming up here on live. So anytime, and anybody listening in, pop some questions, comments, however you're feeling, whatever you're receiving from this conversation, pop that into the chat. And we'll definitely take a look and respond. Or if you're watching this replay, let us know what you thought about the conversation, any tips that we're sharing, or anything that we have learned through our journey together in this last journey of reading a book together. And the book that we have been reading, Dr. Catherine, go ahead, let us know the book and author.
Yes. So we are currently reading We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. So, this book is much more than becoming a millionaire. In fact, it's more about empowering ourselves to know that we can become anything that we really want to become. It's all about a mindset shift of how you identify yourself, how you want to move forward in your life. And there's just so many great nuggets that Rachel provides for us. And I love how she starts the book with really giving us some statistics about why, as women, we think the way we think, we operate the way we operate in our personal lives, in our work life as well. It really makes sense about why we do the things that we do. And once we're able to understand that and know that we can shift the way that we think, right? Shift the way that we implement things so that we can get another outcome, the outcome that we desire, the outcome that we deserve, right? Then we experience life differently. So yes, it's go pick it up if you haven't heard of it. And if you have, read it again. I'm on my second read again, and it's even better than before.
I love it. And this is a really good place to start because I think as women, Dr. Catherine, one of the pivotal moments for me in reading this first chapter of the book, where she spends a lot of time talking about the history, how far women's rights have come, how behind we still are, on how much work there still is to do. When reading all of the statistics, the facts, the history, all of the proof, what it did to me as a woman, it literally, my shoulders went down and I felt like, oh, that's why I do the things that I do. And guess what, world? It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. And you get to take it off your shoulders and put the blame elsewhere, because as women, you know, and today's conversation is the 24-hour rule, being more proactive instead of reactive. And sometimes, and I think we're all guilty of this as women specifically, and she touches upon this in the first chapters of the book, is when we are reactive in circumstances and we blame ourselves for being reactive. And we think, I should have, I could have, and we think of all the proactive opportunities we could have taken. However, we forget to give voice and acknowledgement to the fact that the reason we were reactive have a lot of historical facts, have a lot of facts on how women have been conditioned in our roles in society. So reading the first few chapters of the book was really huge for me. And it's not something I didn't know, but I just wasn't presently aware. And I was carrying the weight of that onto my shoulders. So a huge pivotal moment in that book. And Dr. Catherine's right, like this mindset shift that it requires, but you can't make a mindset shift. You can't do thought work until you acknowledge where those thoughts come from. Where does that mindset come from in the first place? And being able to break that down is crucial. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about what does it mean to be proactive versus reactive, and implementing this 24-hour rule. But I've got a funny story to share with you. Dr. Catherine, right before this live, I came from the gym, I jumped in the shower, and I was thinking about the conversation we're about to have and what I wanted to share. And I go to reach down for the soap, the shampoo, my kids have shampoo, my husband has his soap. And I go down to reach and it's empty, but it was full last week. And right away, I'm like, oh, well, that's strange. And then I'm like, I guess I'll have to use my kids' shampoo and it's empty. And I'm like, what is going on? And so immediately I'm like, oh, my kids took a bath and they dumped all of the soap. So the mom in me is going to have this reactive approach. When they get home tonight, I'm probably going to get upset with them and let them know they utilized all the soap that was brand new and full. And instead I was thinking, gosh, I'm just about to have this conversation in the proactive in me, and it has nothing to do with my children or the outcome or any of that. It really, at the end of the day, has to do with my peace, my sanity, my energy that is being consumed by being reactive. Had I been proactive, which I usually am in a bath time scenario, I remove all of the shampoo bottles and nothing is left in there except their toys, right? So it was quite funny. I'm in the shower thinking I have no shampoo because I was not proactive, but I'm not going to be reactive. I
Right.
am going, because that's just going to pull from my energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to remember this kind of comical moment and remind myself next time to be a little bit more proactive. So that's just like a simple example I wanted to bring in and bring a little bit of relatability, because I know I'm not the only mom in the world whose kids dump their shampoo bottles on them.
I'm sure you're not. I am sure you are not. And, it's so important for us to just, throughout the day, be mindful of just how reactive versus proactive we are about things, because it's so much easier, especially when you're starting to make that shift, to be reactive if that's something that you're used to doing, right? And as human beings, we're emotional, right? But we don't have to be emotional in the moment. There's a point where you have that control to say, okay, I'm going to take a pause. What's really going on here? Why am I reacting to this? Or why am I feeling this way? Right? And can I respond in a different way instead of reacting?
I love that. Let's break it down. I think there's a couple components to this. We'll talk about the 24-hour rule in a minute, but let's really focus in and hone in on this proactive versus reactive. And I want to apply this to entrepreneurship and to the business world. So when immediately, I think we think of, um, our reactive responses when we have an emotional response. And what Dr. Catherine just touched upon, I think, is huge. And she's basically pointed out the 24-hour rule. She's saying, chill out for a minute. You have an email that didn't, that made your stomach turn, or something happened in your day with a staff member or your team member, or something didn't go right, and you could reactively respond in 24 hours purely out of emotion. But if you apply the 24-hour rule and give yourself, your body, time to absorb, process, reflect, within 24 hours, you will make a more sound, proactive decision instead of just in that reactive emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've all been there. Like I've been there. We've all, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's immune
No.
to acting off of emotion, right,
Right.
Dr. Catherine?
Exactly. We're gonna feel that way. We're gonna feel that way. But what's most important is that we don't have to, right? We have the power to respond instead of react, right?
Okay, so I have a question for you then. Tell me this.
Uh-huh.
Um, what do you do? Do you talk yourself out of picking up the phone? Do you talk yourself out of writing that email? How do you, because the urge is
Right.
real, right?
It
When your
is.
emotions are heightened.
It is. It
What
is.
what type of tips could you share?
Great question. So I've been doing this for a very long time. So typically I am not reactive, generally speaking, because I understand that what is, let's say, for example, someone is upset, right? And they have a comment to make or they have something to say. In that instance, I know that what they're saying has nothing to do with me. It has to do with what's going on within them. So because I understand that, I know that I don't have to react to that person. I can respond in a way or don't respond at all, depending on what the situation is. And if I'm in front of the person, just walk away, right? If it's an email, I don't have to respond right now, just as you said. And what comes with, shifting from reactive to being more responsive when you take that step back, so to speak, is improving your emotional intelligence. And that can be a whole other conversation that we have. But that piece is very important. It really goes with the whole thing of responding instead of reacting. One tip I will give, though, is take a breath or two, three, four, or five if you need to. Because what that breath does, and when I say a breath, I mean a deep breath. Slow in and slow out. You can even do it in a way where the other person doesn't even notice. But what happens is you're shifting your focus from what is being said or what was said to the breath itself. So in that breathing, you are pausing, you are shifting. And as you take that deep breath in and out, your parasympathetic nervous system, right? One part of your nervous system, you are calming yourself down with that deep breath. So it's very, very helpful in that moment to do that deep breathing. I won't go into the science behind it, but I think that's a really powerful tool that we have, right? We breathe all the time. We are not even aware of it, but when we use it, it is so powerful and can benefit us in so many different ways.
Ooh, I like that. Take a deep breath in that moment of that heightened emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Get grounded, because it's almost like an outer body experience when you have this reactive emotional response,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The other tip I'd like to share, and that has served me very well, is not just taking 24 hours to reflect. And it's in one of my favorite books. I have it right here, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's actually approaching the situation instead of like, this person did this and this and this and this and this, and turning that finger and pointing it towards the in way. And if you're not scared or intimidated to do that, then it's a sign of high emotional intelligence. But if you can turn that over to yourself and say, what could I have done differently? And not necessarily to say that you have fault. It's not putting fault or blame. It's just what could have changed the course? What could have changed the outcome? What, moving forward, could you do differently, right? Always looking to see what we could do differently and not focusing so much on what others could do differently, because the
Correct.
only thing we have control over
Mm,
is our own actions and reactions. And
absolutely.
it's a very hard thing that took me a long time. Dr. Catherine, you're sitting here talking about, like, I know that it wasn't a me issue, it was that person's issue. They must have something going on in their life. It's taken me so long to get to be able to say that out loud,
Absolutely.
because all
Years.
we do is think they wronged me and I need them to fix it.
Right.
But what if in their paradigm, what if in their perspective, in the life that they live, it isn't a wrong, but it
Right.
is in yours? And I think both are entitled. So all we need to do as humans to not be so reactive is definitely look at what we could do differently in a situation, and different personalities collide or
Mm-hmm.
different paradigms come to play.
Mm-hmm. I love that because, we need to take responsibility for the reactions or response that we make. It's so much easier to blame someone for something, right? Because then we don't have to focus inward, like you were saying. It takes more energy to turn inward and do that evaluation of, okay, what really happened here, right? What could have been done differently? And what will I try to do the next time around? So you're not feeling the way you're feeling, right? It's an awful feeling.
Exactly. And
It's very
you know
uncomfortable.
what? Yeah, you know what, Dr. Catherine? Right away, my brain is like, okay, some people might be thinking, well, I did everything right, but the client was still angry. I did
Mhm.
everything right. And you may have certainly done everything right, gone above and beyond. And I know the feeling. I go above and beyond with all my clients. I try I put my heart into it and everything. But there's still, at the end of the day, different personalities, different paradigms, perspectives that come to play. And you can't control it and you can't force change upon it. But
Mhm.
why I encourage people to think about what you could do differently, it means being proactive. It
Mhm.
does not meaning what you could do differently, meaning what you could do right next time. It doesn't mean right or wrong. It means what you could do differently to try and mitigate or avoid that situation from repeating itself. So if you have an angry client, a disgruntled client, and you've gone above and beyond, maybe it's a preliminary conversation. Maybe it's a contract. Maybe it's a verbal, very open conversation. Maybe it's getting it in writing, the clarification of, what the agreement was. Maybe there's just some preliminary steps that could have been proactive to
Mhm.
avoid a reactive response from a disgruntled client. Not to say that anybody was in the right or in the wrong. So I
Mhm.
think that's the power of being proactive. And in a circumstance, because you'll always reach them. I don't think you'll ever go through business or entrepreneurship and, be done with the disgruntled client. You're
Right.
always going to, experience this, but it's how to handle it, how to manage it, and how to always be in a proactive energy instead of a reactive one.
Absolutely. What can you prepare on your end so that, as Crystal said, you mitigate these things that are more likely to happen, right? And, clients' expectations are different. Everyone's expectations are different. So even if you have served in such a way that you can't even believe that this client is telling you, hey, I didn't get this, or I'm demanding this, and you're just flabbergasted that this client could even say such a thing when you have given so much. Well, you don't know what those expectations of that client is. Actually, you don't even know. Well, you kind of know that this patient, I'm sorry, I'm going into doctor mode right now, but this client, this client is going through, again, I see, okay, if I've done everything, there's something going on with this person, and maybe this person is lashing out on me because they have the opportunity to do so. So again, it may not have to do with anything in your business, but you just happen to be the target. That's just something else to think about. But again, in terms of being proactive, get things straight within your business, as Crystal was saying, contracts, whatever communication, make that crystal clear. Dot all the I's, cross all the T's as you can, because you just never know. You just never know. Hi there, everyone. Damir and Sensual Energy Alchemy. So glad that you are here, and everyone else on other platforms. I can't see everyone right now.
And I hope everybody's enjoying the conversation. Drop us your thoughts on proactive versus reactive energy in running a business, being a female entrepreneur. I want to talk about the flip side of the reactive versus proactive, right? Because we talked about the disgruntled client and how to mitigate that, what we could do to set up before so we could avoid that situation. But what if we actually flipped it and talked about part of being proactive? A huge part of being proactive, is setting boundaries. And in the Rachel Rogers book, she really goes deep in talking about $1 million boundaries. She calls everything $1 million, right? It's acting as if it has nothing to do with actually monetarily achieving, that $1 million. But treating yourself, your business, your worth as that value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that you may be getting into reactive situations actually has a lot to do with your boundaries and lack thereof. Now, again, don't feel guilty. If you are a woman listening into this conversation, I want you to do this exercise with me. Grab it all off of your shoulder. None of that belongs to you, and toss it the other way. Because guess what? In that book, she dives deep into this. We don't set boundaries because we constantly allow them to be breached as women. Why? Because we are carrying the lion's shares of a lot of things in society, right? And so we allow a lot of those boundaries to be breached sometimes. So in business, it is a non-negotiable, I believe, if you want to avoid being put into reactive positions in your business. Dr. Catherine, what do you think about this? I know this is kind of high on your totem pole, and understanding how important boundaries are, not even just in business, but protecting your energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The boundaries that we set for ourselves, we need to really understand why we're setting them in the first place. Really going back to thinking about, okay, I'm doing this for my own energy. I'm doing this for my time, right? I'm protecting my time. I am protecting my energy. I am doing this for thinking about the vision that you have for your life and for your business. That's what you are really doing it for. And so it's so important for you to remember why you're doing it so that you can be consistent with keeping up those boundaries, right? It could be boundaries. It should be also boundaries within different aspects of your life, not just business relationships, but your personal relationships, and really evaluating and seeing, okay, is this relationship of good quality, right? Yes, you may have long relationships. That's great. But is it serving you well where you are right now? Because as you are growing in your business, you're growing in your personal life. They're not separate, right? They are interconnected. And so as you are growing, there are things that need to be shed, things need to come off, right? So whatever that means for you in terms of boundaries, again, in your relationships, boundaries in, using this device here that does help with our business, what that means when you're checking your emails, all of those things, just really taking account of how you're actually spending your time and your energy, and just asking yourself, is it worth it? Again, taking that pause to step back, right? We're constantly doing. There's always something to do in our business. That's never going to end, right? But what are you actually doing? What is the time and energy that you're putting into these different things? And do you personally have to do those things? Right? What do you have to say about that, Crystal?
You
And
know what? You just
yeah,
brought up something huge when you brought it to the personal and friendships and relationships in life.
uh-huh.
And something that if you realize you have maybe a relationship, like Dr. Catherine said, that you need to shed, or that it's time to change the dynamics in the relationship, not
Right.
necessarily time to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have boundaries in place, it is a lot more difficult and traumatic to shed that relationship. Does that make sense? Right? Because you had no boundaries and that person didn't expect it, because that's not their norm. That's not what they're used to from you. And then all of a sudden you put up a boundary and it's not communicated and it feels personal to
It
the other
does.
individual instead of being received from a place of love and respect. And maybe that relationship could have continued and flourished and grown and evolved to the way that you were going. But if
Mhm.
boundaries are so blurred and not put in place, then that relationship probably will end dead when when those boundaries are set.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It feels like rejection to the other person that you're putting boundaries up, right? But it's not, and that's something that you should communicate with the person or persons, is that it's not about them, it's about you and your well-being. I think if you're putting it that way and communicating that clearly, if they are truly your friend and they truly understand where you're coming from, then you'll just see how the relationship really pans out. But there's sometimes when people want to keep you in a box, they see you in the box and they want to keep you in a box. When you're like, boop, I'm outside the box, right? You are growing and you're flourishing, and people just want to keep you where they want to keep you because they're comfortable with thinking about you that way, if that makes sense.
So true, so true. And Demir put this in the chat there. Demir said, as a recovering hothead, these tips are so helpful. It is so easy to react, but setting those boundaries and making sure we separate business from personal, sticking to those boundaries, and like Crystal said, making things clear from the get-go is key. I love that. I think we've all learned this in business, especially. It's hard to put up boundaries when you're a business owner and then you have a circle of friends or family that support your business. And I mean, there's nothing, and by no means you're able to do family discounts, friend discounts. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. But make sure whatever you are negotiating, make sure whatever lines you are crossing in business and in your family and personal life, that you've got clear boundaries and that you're communicating them clearly and that they're in alignment with your values and they feel good to you. Remember, boundaries are not a textbook thing. There's different boundaries for different people. It's all about what feels in alignment, what brings you balance, joy, happiness, all of those things. If those things are there and it's not feeling like something that needs a boundary, then it may not be, right? I
Right.
don't think that, I think sometimes we get these hot words. I think boundary became kind of a hot word, right? Like a
Yeah,
buzzword.
agreed.
It's called a
Yeah,
buzzword. Yeah.
yeah.
And then now, and there's a lot of people on social media these days saying, I hate the word boundaries. Let's not call it boundaries, right? And I listen to it and I'm like, yeah, let's not call it boundaries. It's a buzzword. But no, boundaries is important. I think the problem associated when it became a buzzword is everybody was just like, yep, I need this boundary. I need this boundary. all of our boundaries are going to look different.
Right.
And all of our boundaries are in order to ensure that we are being proactive and not reactive. That's what boundaries are kind of supporting us with, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one thing came to mind as you were talking about being aligned with these with these relationships. These include your client relationships. So when you're having initial conversations with potential clients, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, right? Be mindful of how you're feeling when you're interacting with these potential clients, because we need to, in this or in that instant, is to put the money aside, right? Sometimes the access to the money can really cloud what we know we should not be doing. So make sure that the clients that you have are in alignment with the goal and the mission and who you really want to serve, right? Again, that goes back to Rachel Rogers' book, We Should All Be Millionaires. We need to shift our mindset to an abundant mindset. We need to do that in business. Because if we continue to have a scarcity mindset, then we think that there's not enough clients in this entire world of 8 billion people right now.
Yeah.
It seems insane when I say it like that, right?
It does. It does. And for a second to think that you would sacrifice your energy, your well-being, your boundaries, force yourself to behave reactively instead of proactively simply because of a scarcity mindset that you need that client. You actually, in fact, do not need that. Your boundaries, being proactive in your business and in your life and what brings you happiness is the non-negotiable.
Exactly.
And I love that Rachel Rogers touches upon that. I think the other thing that brought us to this conversation was about, in business, we almost have a unconscious response to being reactive when things land on our desk, when things land on our plate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important, so crucial. If you've set goals for this quarter, if you've set goals for the year, if you have a blueprint, a GPS that's getting you to your end destination or to, building the business of your dreams, you need to stay laser focused. Mm-hmm. You need to continue to be proactive and follow that. Just because things land on your desk that seem urgent and need fires to be put out, really need to be put out. What does it say? Oh, did I go frozen?
Yeah, you were a little bit
static. I hope my face landed in a pretty way.
You're back now. You're back.
What did the rock say?
It said focus. When you mentioned focus, it said focus.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
I love that. And, so that's my tip. In the reactive piece, the best thing that I started doing this year, and it is, oh my goodness, changed my peace, my anxiety levels, my stress, my overwhelm. Something seems urgent from some outside source and lands on my desk or my email, it's no longer urgent because it's not on my blueprint. It's not on my proactive list of things that I need to do to accomplish the goals that I have set out for myself, right? And so it's urgent but unimportant, and that was a huge kind of turning moment for me. So when you're being reactive to putting out fires simply because they are urgent for other people, they're not urgent for you. What you are doing is breaching boundaries. What you are doing is sending a message that I'll put out your fire whenever you need, because your fire is more important than the flame inside of me. And that is not the truth. That is yet again another story that we have told ourselves. And once you can start establishing, and I hate using the word boundary over and over again, but that is what it is. It's a boundary that you're setting in place and communicating to others. And you don't actually have to verbally communicate. You simply just don't respond within minutes of receiving that urgent email. You simply just don't pick up the phone call after hours when you've committed to yourself. You will not do that. You just stop picking up the phone call. And guess what happens? They stop calling. They stop sending you urgent requests, and they end up, you actually end up empowering people and enabling people to kind of figure out their own fire and how to put it out, right? So
Exactly. Yeah. I completely agree with you. And so, not picking up the phone call, not answering the email, what kind of boundaries that you can set for yourself so you're not getting notification of the email, you're not getting notification of those phone calls. There are little things that you can do to help you along the way, those little boundaries, not just the big ones, but those little things that you can set up for yourself so that you can set up yourself for success.
I love it. I love it. All right, Dr. Catherine, I want you to share because you inspired me. This morning, Dr. Catherine and I jumped on an audio platform called Clubhouse, and we had an incredible segment. And we talked about boundaries a lot. We kind of had this in depth conversation. And she shared that she has set out a badass, audacious and her business for the next 20 days. Dr. Catherine, I'd love for you to share with everybody. Let us know, what are you up to? What's your goal? What inspired you? And how can we help you achieve it?
Sure, I would love to share that with the audience. So, what am I up to? I'm up to 3 things: giving more love, giving more service to others, and just giving in general. And so this week, the idea came to serve 20,000 women in 20 days. Yes, and today is day number 4. And so the reason why it came about was because, and drop in the chat if this relates to you, where we can get so bogged down in our business of these tasks that we have to do. Yes, it's towards our goals, right? And towards the vision that we have for ourselves. But we can really get bogged down. And on top of that, we can get distracted with other things too. And so for me, one of the things that I wanted to do, along with my friend who is doing this, she's also a coach. She coaches women in business and in leadership. We said, okay, let us focus on what we want to do for the month of June as we wrap up the second quarter, as we wrap up the first half of the year. Can you believe it, everyone?
Yeah.
The first half of 2024 is coming to an end in a few weeks. And so we said, okay, we are just going to really laser focus on serving. And that's how this mission, this movement, I like to call it, has come about. And I have received quite a bit of support so far in just the past few hours. And I am elated to be on this journey together. So when we had this confirmation, there was no talk about us going public with it. There was no talk about us going public. I just went public. I just went public on my own. I was called to go public on my own. I said, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I am doing it. I am just doing it. And it really, and when I did it and just having conversations with people, I realized this makes this whole movement so much more impactful, to get other people involved in something higher than themselves. And that was also something that was very important for me to do this, because again, we can get bogged down in what we have to do in here, right? And I have to do this and I have to do that. But what about the shifting the focus to, okay, who am I doing this for? So that's what this is all about. Okay, so how can you help? You can definitely share this live. You can go to my different accounts. So if you're on Instagram, you're already there. If you're not, it's just Dr. K Tap, DRK Tap. You can go to my Facebook. You can look for Dr. K Tap or Catherine Tapper. I have 2. And then on LinkedIn, just look for my name, Dr. K Tap, as well. Share the post, have conversations with people about this movement. And if you have platforms, or if you know of women communities that are ready to receive information about holistic health and wellness, again, that is what I do. That is what I talk about. I want to break the pattern of how you think about your health, because we think about our health mainly in just the physical aspect of our health. And then secondarily, it will be our mental health, right? We just finished Mental Health Awareness Month in May. But there is so much more to our health than just those two paradigms. We have our spiritual health, our occupational health, our environmental health, and how these different dimensions are interconnected, and are we putting those pieces of the puzzle together? So I help you to think about your health differently and know that you have the power within you to elevate your wellness journey, right? That light within you is readily available, but some people need a little bit of help to no longer dim their light, but to shine bright. And one of the ways to do that is to relieve some of that stress, and how you can cope differently, what I like to call recalibrate your recalibrate your stress, so that you can feel that inner peace, that inner calm, so that you can feel more connected within yourself. So make sure to share if you know of different podcasts that I can speak to women, conferences, summits, retreats, workshops. I am open. It doesn't matter how big or how small. Let's all join in together in this movement.
Well, I am inspired, and count me as one of your 20,000 because you have impacted me. And if you're listening to this live right now, you're listening to the replay, and you heard something from Dr. Catherine today that inspired you, that taught you, that made you think, that made you have a aha moment, or just kind of hit home with you, drop the word impacted in the chat so she knows that you are one of the 20,000 women she is looking to reach in the next 20 days. And I mean, we better have some words impact in the chat right now, because I never thought about what she just shared. When we talk about our holistic wellness, you are so right. All I've been thinking about is working on my mindset and working on my muscles. And I've been growing some. Look at those muscles.
Oh, love it. Mind and muscles.
I'm clearly working on the mindset because I was so confident just to show off my muscles. But you talked about the occupational, the environmental. There's so many other factors, and I don't think we think about those, give light or acknowledgement to them. So I know that was huge for me. So impacted, write it in the chat. Head over to Dr. Catherine's Instagram, social media profiles, support her in this journey. And I can't wait to hear you announce on your 20 days that you've reached 10,000, 20,000, however many women you reach. You're doing some incredible work, Dr. Catherine. So keep it up, keep inspiring and empowering other women, because it's a trickle effect. We never know. You may just have impacted one woman today, and she may go on and impact someone else. So yes. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. Join us again next month in July, the first Thursday of every month. Dr. Catherine and I will be coming to you live, having candid, bold conversations about entrepreneurship, holistic wellness, being a female in business, and also always bringing to you how to stay proactive in business is signing up with her link and mastering the back end of your business. Because one big painful reactive lesson you will learn in business, if you don't have a grasp or hands-on managing the back end of your business, you are constantly going to be in a reactive state in running and operating your business. So if you're interested in getting rid of a little bit of that, getting rid of a little bit of the overwhelm, the chaos, the stress, and managing all things in your business, you need an all-in-one business management solution. It's a software. It's an incredible tool that changed my life, my business. And her link is offering women from our community this incredible software with training and face-to-face tech support. So if you're interested and need some support with the back end of your business, definitely reach out to her link, DM me, and I would love to chat with you more about that. And otherwise, have an amazing rest of your day, everybody. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining. And I use the back end. I've been working with Crystal on the back end of my business. And let me just tell you before we go that it has been transformational. That's all I can say. It has been transformational. So that stress that we spoke about, right? The occupational wellness, right? That's your business. and how that can impact your mental well-being and your physical well-being, they're all connected. So if you can relieve some stress from your business by really looking at the back end or having someone look at the back end and help you with that, I'm telling you, it's a game changer for sure.
Yes. All right. Well, happy Thursday, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Catherine. Incredible conversation as always. And we'll catch you.